but her tragic suicide marked the end of sovereign Egypt. Alexandria evolved into the empire's premier scientific center, breaking revolution. In 1250, control shifted to the Mamluks, a powerful elite military caste who dominated global trade routes.
Pyramids of Giza. They stood as the tallest man-made structures on Earth for over 3,800 years.
Cotton, but massive debts led to a British military occupation by 1882.
For thousands of years, human civilization has been captivated by a single geographic miracle. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus famously called Egypt the gift of the Nile. He was right. Without this river, there is no Egypt, only an unforgiving expanse of sand. The history of Egypt is an epic of unmatched longevity. It is a story of a culture that learned to control nature, built monuments that defied time, survived waves of foreign conquest, and continually reinvented itself. To understand this nation, we must journey backward thousands of years to when the world was young and Egypt was known simply as Kemet. Our story truly begins around 3100 BC. Before this, independent farming communities dotted the Nile, but a legendary ruler, King Narmer, successfully unified the warring regions of Upper and Lower Egypt under a single crown. This marks the birth of the First Dynasty, establishing a divine system of pharaonic kingship that would endure for 3 millennia. During the Old Kingdom, the age of the pyramids, Egyptian civilization flourished. The pharaoh wasn't just a political ruler, he was a living god, tasked with maintaining cosmic order, or ma'at. To secure the pharaoh's eternal journey in the afterlife, thousands of skilled conscript laborers, not slaves, erected the pyramids of Giza. They stood as the tallest man-made structures on Earth for over 3,800 years. But chaos is the shadow of order. Over centuries, severe droughts and foreign migrations, like the arrival of the Hyksos, repeatedly fractured the country. Yet, Egypt always rose again. By 1550 BC, the new kingdom ushered in Egypt's golden imperial age. This was the era of household names. Queen Hatshepsut, who broke tradition to rule as a female pharaoh, expanding trade routes. Akhenaten, the radical who upended centuries of polytheism to worship a single sun god. And Tutankhamun, the boy king whose intact tomb would shock the modern world centuries later. The climax of this empire was realized under Ramesses the Great, a master of military strategy and monumental architecture. Ramesses signed the world's first recorded international peace treaty and carved his giant likeness into the cliffs of Abu Simbel. No empire lasts forever. As the centuries ground on, Libya, Nubia, and Persia all took turns invading a weakening Egypt. The final blow to native pharaonic rule came in 332 BC when Alexander the Great marched in. Alexander embraced Egyptian culture, and his general Ptolemy established a Greek-speaking dynasty. For the next 3 centuries, these Greek rulers wore the traditional double crown of the pharaohs to legitimize their rule. Their new coastal capital, Alexandria, became the intellectual engine of the ancient world. The Ptolemaic era ended in a whirlwind of tragedy. Queen Cleopatra VII tried desperately to use her political brilliance to keep Egypt independent. But following her suicide in 30 BC, Egypt was formally annexed by the Roman Empire. Under Rome, Egypt became an exploited breadbasket. But a quiet spiritual revolution was brewing. In the 1st century AD, Christianity arrived. Despite brutal Roman persecutions, the faith spread rapidly. The native Egyptian language evolved into Coptic, and a distinct, resilient Christian culture was born along the Nile. In 641 AD, another massive historical wave broke over Egypt. Arab Islamic forces captured the territory from the Byzantine Empire, bringing Sunni Islam and the Arabic language. Over the next few centuries, the population gradually adopted Arabic culture, and the native Coptic language faded from daily life, surviving primarily in church liturgies. By the 10th century, the Fatimid dynasty founded a new capital that would become the beating heart of the region, Al-Qahira, Cairo. Medieval Egypt became an economic and intellectual powerhouse. When the Crusades threatened the region, the legendary Muslim leader Saladin built a massive stone citadel in Cairo to defend his empire. Soon, the Mamluks, a powerful military caste, took control. But tragedy struck in the mid-14th century, when the Black Death wiped out roughly 40% of the population. Weakened by plague and economic decline, Egypt fell in 1517 to the Ottoman Empire, transforming the once proud heart of world empires into a distant imperial province. In 1798, the modern Western world collided with Egypt. Napoleon Bonaparte led a French invasion, bringing not just soldiers but scientists. Their discovery of the Rosetta Stone unlocked hieroglyphs and effectively gave birth to the modern science of Egyptology, sparking a global obsession with the country's ancient past. After the French were expelled, an Albanian military commander named Muhammad Ali rose to power in 1805. Considered the founder of modern Egypt, he broke away from Ottoman control, industrialized the economy, and introduced cotton as a lucrative global cash crop. His successors pursued costlier ambitions. In 1869, they completed the Suez Canal, connecting the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. But the project left Egypt heavily indebted. Under the guise of protecting their financial interests, Great Britain invaded Egypt in 1882, turning it into a British protectorate. Egyptians fought back. The historic revolution of 1919 forced Britain to grant Egypt conditional independence. However, the local monarchy was widely seen as a weak foreign puppet. The breaking point arrived in July 1952, when a group of young military officers staged a bloodless coup, forcing the king to abdicate and ending decades of foreign influence. In 1953, Egypt was officially declared a republic. A charismatic colonel named Gamal Abdel Nasser seized the presidency, becoming a global champion of Arab nationalism. In 1956, he boldly nationalized the Suez Canal, successfully ending over 70 years of British presence on Egyptian soil. The latter half of the 20th century saw Egypt navigate intense geopolitical storm clouds, from devastating wars with Israel to a sharp Cold War pivot toward the United States under President Anwar Sadat, followed by decades of rigid stability under Hosni Mubarak. By the 21st century, the spirit of revolution awoke once more. In January 2011, millions of citizens poured into Cairo's Tahrir Square, demanding democracy and successfully toppling the 30-year regime of Hosni Mubarak. Today, Egypt stands at yet another crossroads, navigating economic challenges, massive new infrastructure projects, and its historic role as a crucial geopolitical anchor in the Middle East. From the first stone laid at Giza to the bustling metropolitan energy of modern Cairo, Egypt's journey is an unbroken thread of human resilience. Dynasties fall, empires crumble, religions shift, and languages change. But the people of the Nile endure. For Egypt is not just a country with a history. Egypt is the cradle